Well, to the already privileged, charter schools sound like a good idea. Charter schools sound like a neat little way for our taxpayer money to go to fund discrimination, which is all charter schools are. You see, charter schools don't have to play by federal rules. In my podcast, Overthinking Everything, Deconstructing a Culture of Cultism, I talk a lot about the federalist and anti federalist movement in this country and how our current MAGA Confederate evangelical nationalist movement is pushing for more state autonomy over federal regulation, federal protections. One of the reasons that that is so appealing is that the fewer federal protections that marginalized groups have, the more they can discriminate against those marginalized communities in their own communities, right? Like, so a charter school would be a way for certain people who looked a certain way or came from a certain base level income or neighborhoods or what have you to be allowed to have, let's say, vouchers that would be given to those students so they could go to this charter school and they wouldn't have to go to public school with the riffraff. You see, these folks are still angry that we desegregated their schools. They're trying everything they can to resegregate schools. Well, you see that present in your city right now that you're sitting in. Right now, you have that part of town. You know, the part of town that someone like me might not feel comfortable walking around late at night in. Surely you have one of those. It doesn't really matter which marginalized group. It could even be marginalized groups that look like me. Because we're all under the same oppressive boot, after all. Charter schools make the playing field even more unlevel than it already is. For many children in America, potential is never reached. Think about that. Potential is almost never reached in America. We talk a lot about unborn babies who could be the next Albert Einstein, but we don't think about the kid who's underserved in our underfunded public education that has been stripped away by conservative Republicans for decades. We don't think about that kid who could already be a brilliant scientist. We just won't empower him and enable him to do so. We need to work on public schools before we start catering to the entitled and privileged. Whiteys.